And then at the end, he made this call to action.
Social outreach, again, breaking down these partisan barriers. And so persuading, helping third parties. Third parties don't work as a practical matter, but they're very good on principled matters because they can afford to stand for something, whereas our two-party system, the parties just stand for opposing the other one. And so helping third parties see that, again, they can get 80% of what they want in this legislative package, and by bringing their votes to the table, by joining the American Union, that's how they can achieve a lot of the things that they want to see done. Raising money by having people join the American Union with a monthly pledge to the PAC of $5 a month or more. As a super PAC, none of this money will ever go to any of the candidates or their campaigns. It only goes to grow the American Union and spread this message of cooperating to solve problems. You know, when the framers wrote the Constitution, the only thing that they could figure out how to do was to put everybody in one room to hash things out. And that was true back in the 18th century. But it's not true in the 21st century. We can crowdsource functional government. We can decentralize the legislative process, and we can take it back. We just need, as a union of swing voters, gives us a way to leverage our influence. So writing that legislation, we need people who are willing to review these legislative details. We've got a couple of subcommittees on each of those two subtitles within Title III. So if you're interested in the ending the endless wars, or ending mass incarceration, or promoting the general welfare by ending poverty, we have a total of 8 different committees subcommittees that are working on various legislative parts. So if you're interested, we need help with that. And then as far as this is a political campaign, so we need voter outreach. So through canvassing, showing up at different events, putting out yard signs, sharing the message on social media, all those kind of things to let the American people know that there is a third way to vote besides Republican and Democrat, besides the lesser of two evils game, that there's a different way to have political influence. Then as far as the cultural outreach, again, offering solutions based on duties, framing the message in a way of what do we owe each other? What are we supposed to be doing? Instead of framing the question of what are the rights that other people owe me? Yeah, I was gonna say the first step is joining the American Union and making the token $5 a month and saying that you're willing to vote for either Republican or Democrat in theory. And by the time you see the final legislative package, if there's something in there that doesn't work, it's just making a good faith agreement to work together.
What I got most from that is that while people are working on third parties, we can have influence now.
And that's assuming you get the third parties on board. That's easier said than done. That's
What?
assuming you get third parties on board. That's easier said than done.
We were just discussing getting third parties on board with the American Union, and it's kind of, we haven't had much luck, and I was just praising Nissan for how much he had done to promote it in his party.
Getting everybody on board on one idea seems to be a very tremendous task because everybody thinks they know how to get something done, but they want to fight each other and actually fight together. Sad, but true.
Brilliant, Nissan. You're so right about that. And
How do you bring it up to them? How do you introduce the idea to them?
Well, first we're going to have to agree on a shared lexicon because a lot of times we get in the battle about words and what words mean. So you could make your statement pretty clear as day, and somebody else would interpret it very wrong. So it's not so much of what you're saying is how you say it, which is sad but true. But that's basically how it goes. People are more because especially with the left, I don't know why, but it seems like they're always when they talk, it's like they're looking for your agenda. They're looking like you have a hidden motive for some kind. I guess because the left is very untrusting. I don't know why that is, but that seems to be the case. Like I can just tell them like, this is what I want. And he says, You sure you, well, what do you really want? I told you that. What was that? I don't know why I have to get an argument about that. It's really weird. But those are some things I came across, which I find frustrating. Both
Right.
having to argue what words mean and people getting triggered by certain words because of their past history with the word. They need to take counsel for that. That's more of a, that's more, they're not, but instead of figuring it's a problem with them, they think it's the problem with the system. So they want to like play a victim game.
If you're putting this idea before third parties, are you putting it before the people who are at the head of these third parties, or people that you happen to know that belong to a third party or tend to vote for a third party, or what are you doing?
This would be the head leadership of the third party.
Okay.
Saying it to the membership really doesn't do anything because it doesn't get it on the agenda.
Oh.
You have to go through the leadership in order to get it on the agenda, in order for them to talk about it.
So what
So-
is the objective? Get on board is a loose term. What is the objective?
The objective is that they would hear out the proposal of joining the American Union.
As
then
a union? I mean, as
as
a
an
party?
organization. Yeah, as an
as an
organization.
organization, okay.
And then they will go with the paperwork and draft it to officially codify that in their organization that we're making affiliation with the American Union. We call that affiliation agreement. And once that affiliation is signed and signed and agreed upon, then we would back the American Union in their efforts. But
So-
negotiations have to happen first.
Okay,
Okay.
so do we have a list of contact people in these organizations or something?
I do.
You
Yeah.
do?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that people like to have a sense of agency, and I think that in the political arena, that most people have things that they would like to see happen in the world, but with politics, the experience for most people is that there's very little that they can do to have very much hope of really making a difference in the world. And so I think that it may be sort of a good, it may be something that people can sign on to if you tell them, that we're building a collaborative movement and they have the opportunity to be involved with it. They have to, be working with other people together, to try to get a little bit of that agency in the world for the things that everybody wants. And many of the things are not being taken care of by, say by our current government, by our current system.
We're having a discussion about how to move forward with the study.
yeah, but that's not what we're talking about, right? What we're talking
No.
about is the
We're talking about getting
third
people on
party
board.
thing.
Yeah, third parties on board with the American Union. That was the conversation topic. Just want to continue on the train of thought. Is I've actually seen people disenfranchise themselves.
Yeah.
So to some people, it's like either you're on board with them or they're not going to help. I don't know why they have this mentality, but that's basically what I've seen. Is like either you're with me or you're not, and then that's it. It's not like let's do a collaborative effort. It's more like we're all part of this group, and we want you to be part of this group too. That's not exactly how form groups work. That's more like the way a cult works to me, but that's just me. Go ahead, Chihuahua.
So I just want to get clear about what it is that we're trying to do. And I think what we're talking about is bringing third parties to get on board with the American Union, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then a question that I have I mean, about the American Union is, okay, so I'm here in California and we are not a swing state. So so I'm looking at this as well, how is my participation really important? And I can see that the money that I give every month, I want to know if this is really how it works, that the money that I give every month helps to pay for help talking to swing voters in key states to get this movement going where it can really matter. Is that correct? That's what we're about? Is that what?
That's pretty much the meat and potatoes of it, yeah, because of the
Okay,
way our system
so
works.
then I think that when I've talked to people about it, where I have found that they kind of get it is if I talk to them about that, about, well, we're not here in California, we're not in a key state, but we can help financially to make a difference in key states to let legislators and also candidates know that if they don't get on board with what we want, that we're not going to vote for them. And we do it as a block, and that makes it much more important to make a contribution like this because it affects a lot of things in a lot of places than to contribute my money, for example, to one person who's running for office somewhere. I have found I've gotten a good response to that kind of thing. I haven't been talking to leaders of third parties, but I think what you said about leaders of third parties only being interested if you're interested in Nissan, if you want to follow them, then they're interested. Otherwise, they kind of tune out. That's kind of true with everybody, I think.
Yeah,
But I have been able to get through a little bit with the idea of leverage, helping to leverage key states.
yeah,
So
so
I was,
I mean, I could take that one step further, like to put more power in this, is we could take the legislation of building a better, the blueprint for a better America, and take it to these third parties and have them adopt it as part of their platform for their candidates to run on, right? If that'll make a universal front. So if you're not in a swing state, but you're in one of a blue or very red state, you could get all the disenfranchised people of those states, all the independents together, because a lot of these places, there are more independents than they are Democratic or Republican voters. So you would go and target them and saying, this is a way you could do power by voting for our candidate with this package. So make the campaign about that package. That will give it more branding time, more air time, and something that's something that we could all focus on and agree to as one big wave.
Yeah, so I think if you talk about the benefit of working together, the benefit of collaborating as opposed to collaborating. If you talk to people about working together, we already work with a lot of different organizations, blah, blah, blah. But if you talk about the leverage that results from doing what this particular working together, then we might have more luck.
the union is about people working to move a movement forward that is not Democratic, it's not Republican, it's a new way of doing politics. And that my donation each month is going to pay for people to do that work. That's one thing that's good, that people from outside the swing states can support the work being done in swing states.
Oh, I was just saying about how we could all leverage states together in the third parties can take on the blueprint of a better America and run it as a campaign for their candidates, because the whole goal is to get the legislation passed. So if the goal is to get the legislation passed, and the ultimatum is like, okay, you put this through this legislation and get on the desk of the president, then you get the power of the vote. So I'm like, so you can also leverage that in very red and blue states with independents and say to the independents, like, okay, you're just voting for this guy to get this legislation done. So what you effectively have is a decentralized communal legislature. That's what you're doing. You're taking the legislative power away from Congress and putting it back in the hands of the people and just forcing that legislation instead of them writing legislation. You're writing legislation, you're just forcing them to pass it.
I would think a lot of people would get on board with that because
You
the
would
last
think.
few days, everybody that I talked to says, it's like, man, I don't like the Republicans, but I am not happy about these Democrats either.
You would think, but unfortunately, we got data come back. As far as the Democrats are concerned, when it comes to liberal people, they will more readily vote against the candidate than they would vote for their own people. I guess they don't have idea of loyalty or something. It's apparently two things that are foreign concepts to the left is loyalty and power. Because I actually heard from a very left guy that power is an abstract concept. I have no idea how he got to that conclusion, especially with all the books written about power, how to gain power, how to hold power, how to maintain power, and games and stuff, all the stuff that teach you that. It's not very abstract.
We
But
talk about power as the force we're fighting. You see, is power is evil, and it's like, no, power is how you fight the evil. So I mean, I got it all backwards, and thanks to you, Nissan, I'm starting to get it turned around and get on board with the idea that part of self-responsibility is to realize that we're in a world that's not going to just go along to get along, and we may have to stand up for what we believe in.
yeah, you have to actually stand up and take the power. You can't just be handed power. That's not how that works. People sit around thinking they're going to be handed the keys to the kingdom. That's not how that works. I don't know where they get the fairy tale of that happening, but that doesn't work that way. They're living in a fairy tale, a fantasy, an illusion. I don't know what else to call it. It's an insanity. That's what they call it.
One of the things that he said, and it may have been in the video, but for the people in the parties, in the third parties, to get their candidates that they support and the ones running against whatever, and introduce them to this idea and get them to qualify themselves as for it or against it, so that we can begin this process of
Yeah, and then you get the candidates to talk to the party.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a worldwide movement based on this legislation as a universal campaign, then it would have a very strong impact. It's a very good attack. I wish Brian would actually gone farther with the legislation, because you may only get one shot at it. So might as well go full ball with it. But that's on my only criticism.
Nissan, we were talking last night with the Libertarian caucus, and they're saying, I wish he didn't go so far with this, that some of these things go too far. I'm not arguing for libertarian sanity, but I'm saying that they have a political structure, and that if they can get 80% of what they want, it is in their best interest to go along with this package. And yeah, like 3.5% of Americans voted for Gary Johnson in 2016, right? So that's our 3.5% right there, if you could persuade them to get on board. So,
yeah, that's a big
anyways.
if. That's a big if. That's a big if.
But yeah, but you're absolutely right, because for some libertarians, a public option is a deal breaker. To Chiwa's point, Chiwa, where the money is going is things like text banking. We're texting undeclared voters in North Carolina. I'm trying to reach out and offer them an alternative. We have yard signs that are going up across the East Coast. Campaign literature, stamps to mail letters to candidates. And you guys are right on in recognizing that getting the candidates on board more than parties. But a union is a group of individuals. It's not. So by getting the candidates on board, so that a candidate has something that's in it for them, a winning block of votes, that they want to advertise and promote it in order to get more people behind that message.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
And that still works in California. especially when if you've got a
Mhm.
top two primary and you've got two Democrats who are running against each other, then the challenger, look, the incumbent could end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars. All they have to do is put this on the president's desk, and they're refusing to do it. If they don't get it done before the election, then send me, and I will make sure it happens. It's a ready-made campaign for any challenger. And again, it's one national brand, one national message: end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars. So hopefully, if you can get a few candidates to start promoting it, that the other candidates will catch on, and it'll turn into challengers versus incumbents instead of the Republican versus Democrat dynamic that is stressing out and tearing this country apart.
So what is the best way, do you think, to go about getting this message to the candidates in a way that they will look upon favorably?
Hearing from constituents, and depending on what issues are important to them, because as you know, there's a whole bunch in here. So playing up the things that are important to them and downplaying the things that aren't. I'm stressing that, look,
You
we all
mean
come out ahead.
the things that are in the blueprint that are important to them? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
So tomorrow I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. at an event, and Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson are going to be there. So I'm trying to finish up some letters to hand to them and try and get them on board. So with Andrew Yang, it's playing up the idea of reforming democracy, that this is 21st century collaborative democracy, and the universal basic income, that he recognizes that it solves a lot of problems. With Marianne Williamson, it's a different message of reducing militarism and as well as some of the social reforms, but as also part of a cultural reform and trying to shift people's mindset in a way that we recognize the humanity in all of us. So two people at the same event, but I've got different letters crafted for each of them to try and appeal to the things that hopefully will resonate with them. But
Okay.
for ideas to go viral and to spread and get the attention of the media and so on and so forth, Twitter is sort of a necessary evil. On a
Yes.
completely unrelated topic, I got a call from a pollster today, and they wanted to know who I was going to vote for Senate, and I insisted that I was going to vote for the American Union endorsement. So we'll see how they record that.
I got what I wanted, which was to talk about the excitement and the genius of this plan, that the idea is beyond just this piece of legislation is something to rally the people around to create a movement. And the election in my mind is an event, but the union is a movement of people that they want a different form of relating to government, and it gives us that. What I got was an affirmation that this is possible and that people do get excited about it, and it's just a matter of putting out as they say in the Plan B, raising our vibration to meet the moment.
From what I got is that I got it completely differently. I got it like, in order for this plan to work, it would require a movement, which is going to be very difficult to do. I mean, you need to find a way to have people that know how to build a movement and people that are very good with words to try to please each side. So you need a lot of diplomatic skills and personnel with diplomatic skills to go in these groups, because us randomly going and trying to talk to these people is probably not going to work, because it's just kind of going in blind there. So maybe Brian, if you could find a group or something that's maybe put the money towards finding a group that has very good political mediation skills, deliberation skills or something that could actually whip votes or whip people to our side and keep them together. I think that'd be the best use of any funds you get, as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like most people may want this, but most people don't even have an understanding of what things are. So having to explain to them is going to be a very tough and arduous process that requires a lot of education, and also will require an immense amount of patience. And I like to think I have some good amount of patience, but I think some of this is even weighing my patience than in talking to some of these people.
Yeah, so just I guess to build on what Nissan said, that it would be nice, right, if everybody understood and comprehended everything that was in this legislative package and everything, but most people don't want to, and I don't blame them. Again, you know, serving in the legislature, it wasn't possible to read and understand everything that you were voting on. You had to trust that the committee system had vetted it and that it was good and solid. So what this really is offering people a choice, offering people another way, saying, look, if you don't trust Republicans and Democrats to look out for you, based on the fact they haven't been looking out for us for a long time, here's another way. Put your trust in each other, in open source collaborative democracy. And in the same way that open source software works, right, is that you could go in and read all the code and make sure it does what they say it does, but you just trust the process. And so it's about offering people that other option. The point is all these groups that have lots of members in their silos to try and get access to that and to spread the word that, look, here's another way, here's a choice, here's something that you can opt into to end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars. And the Poor People's Campaign is one of these big movements. So if there's anybody who's in the Washington, D.C. area on June 18th, we can use extra help canvassing the crowd for the mass march that'll be taking place in D.C. on June 18th.